Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, this is your host, Alicia Williams with Insight Media. Today I have the privilege to interview Juan Salas, a talented and aggressive California attorney, about a subject that all entrepreneurs should really be up to date on, and that is business disputes. So I know this will be an informative interview. Hi, Juan, and welcome to the show.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day out here in Las Vegas. So Juan, can you please tell me a little bit about who you are and where you come from?
Well, I'm a California attorney. I practice in Newport Beach. Our firm has offices both in Newport Beach in California, and we also have offices in Las Vegas, Nevada as well. I've been in a number of different business entities. I've been in the real estate game. I've handled mortgage banking, and I'm currently doing litigation and business litigation, insurance subrogation, and even some criminal law.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, who do you help and how do you help them?
Well, our firm actually handles a bunch of different areas of the law, everything from employment law, civil law, contract law, business disputes, personal injury, you name it. We handle almost anything legally speaking. So we really help everybody, and that's kind of why I'm not just in one area. While I primarily focus in business litigation and subrogation for insurance companies, I have stepped out and helped some clients that we have with other matters that have led them into some family law issues and criminal law issues as well.
Which is a privilege of working for a full-service law firm. Okay, so what made you to focus on business disputes? I mean, why do you like to hit that market?
Well, I spent a number of years in owning various companies and being involved in not only owning my own business but working for other companies. So I'm very familiar with the environment, and I've seen many of the problems. And now with a legal background, I'm able to turn around and take some of the mistakes I made in business and see how getting an attorney early on could help. And now I can help navigate the business waters and kind of predict what problems are going to occur and help companies to not have some of the issues and problems that can be caused by just kind of overzealously running into a business relationship.
Well, and it's good to have an attorney that's also been on both sides of the fence. So that your experience dealing with business personally and then now as an attorney makes you a valuable asset. Can you tell me, what is a commercial or a residential lease dispute?
Well, really, a dispute in anything is just when two people don't agree on something. And that almost always comes down to a misunderstanding in the very beginning. I like to call it the ambiguity problem. People will not necessarily cover details, and then later on, one person had a perception of one way it was supposed to work, and someone has a perception that it was supposed to work another way. And then when you have that issue, one party doesn't want to do something that the other party expected them to do. So misunderstanding, really.
And so making sure everything is clearly stated is definitely important. Now, what is something I've heard that's called bad faith insurance?
So bad faith insurance really is where an insurance claim is not necessarily responded to by an insurance company. For instance, let's say you're in a car accident, and instead of trying to make you whole, they try to cut corners. Or they made you pay for an insurance policy that had a bunch of exemptions that won't cover the very thing they sought to cover. That was them working in their insurance policy in bad faith, rather than the implied. They're supposed to deal with all their clients in good faith. So when you get an insurance policy, if they in the very beginning never really intended to cover you, intended to have ways to just take your money but not really insure you, that would be a bad faith insurance.
Okay, so which obviously would lead to some sort of business dispute. Now, if I have, how would I resolve, if I have a contract dispute, how would I resolve something like that? How do I go about doing something like that?
Well, the best way to rectify any dispute, and as much as I'm an attorney and want to go straight to your attorney, the first thing you really need to do is sit down and look at all your paperwork and really kind of write everything out for yourself. What really happened in our initial meetings before we signed this contract, what discussions did we have, and then read your contract and see if it really follows everything that you guys discussed and outlined, and if the situation or problem you have is even covered in the contract. Because many times you'll find that your dispute isn't even talked about, and possibly that's the best way to go to the other party and say, look, I know that we talked about this, we never specifically covered this area, but we also don't have a contract that covers it. Can we maybe work this out between us?
So try to work it out at first, and then if you can't, definitely sit up with an attorney.
Yes, if you can't work something out, then you always want to see an attorney. You never want to get bullied into accepting something that's not acceptable to you. So know before you go into the negotiation, what you'd like ideally and what you're willing to deal with and settle for. And if you can get that on your own without an attorney, then you're saving yourself months of work and, money.
Yeah. And so if I were to try to prove defamation, how would I do that?
Well, defamation is a very unique area of the law because it depends on the individual. So, for instance, a person who's posted themselves into the limelight, let's say a presidential candidate or a movie star or some kind of a person who's a public figure, the standard for defamation for them is quite different versus a private individual who's not thrust themselves into the limelight. And in any of them, you're always going to have to prove that the statement was false. That's kind of the first thing, is what the person's saying about you actually untrue, and then whether or not they actually published that statement to a third party. After that, it gets very unique depending on who the party who's being defamed actually is.
So basically, defamation is if somebody's saying something about me that's not true.
Correct. There are other families of defamation where something is true, but you're talking about information. For instance, you have your window open, someone takes a picture of you through it doing something that you wouldn't want the public to know about. They publish that. It's a true representation of what you were doing in your home through an open window, but they are now displaying something that was private. That's a different area, but within the same family of law. It's very unique, and if you ever feel that there's defamation, that's a situation where you immediately get an attorney and you do not try to settle it on your own. Because in today's society where you have a situation where someone can upload something onto the internet and very quickly get all your information out there and publish it, that's a lot more damaging than trying to recover later monetary damages for it.
True. So now, if I have a partnership and I'm not happy in it and I want to dissolve it, how would I go about doing something like that?
Well, dissolving a partnership is a unique animal because a lot of people don't realize that you can't just shut down a partnership. You have to actually go through a process. So when you dissolve a partnership, you actually have to go through a series of steps with the state. The Secretary of State has publication that you need to do, and the idea is that while people believe you're a partnership, until the world knows that you've dissolved your partnership, the other party can incur debts on your behalf of the partnership, and then both become liable. So it's absolutely vital that you first make everyone aware of the situation, that you evaluate all the debts, liabilities, and assets of the partnership, and then you need to figure out how exactly you're going to distribute that, and hopefully you had a very well-written partnership agreement in the beginning that kind of outlines the parameters for doing that. That being said, the process can be quite quick, and we're able to dissolve partnerships in as little as 3 months and have everybody walk away happy.
That's good. So what do you think are some of the biggest myths and misconceptions about business disputes that you think that is important for your clients to know?
I think the biggest myth is that you don't need a lawyer until you have a problem. Most people think, business is going great. My partner and I are doing good. We don't need a lawyer to talk to us or spend any money. If we have problems, then we'll come see you. By then, the problems are almost unsolvable, or at least easily solvable, and a lot more costly than they would have been.
So don't just go on a friendship and on a relationship.
No, I think the biggest mistake people make there is they often think that, hey, we're two top producers at a company. We know the business now. We know that we have the contacts with the the distributors, the manufacturers. We know the people to sell to. We can do this on our own. And so 2 top salespeople will go off and start making sales and start doing the business. And things will go fine for 6 months to a year, and then they have problems. And they didn't realize that they got along well as co-salespeople, but now as business partners, there are a lot of issues that, 1, they're unprepared for, and 2, the relationship has changed, and now there are new stresses. And because there's no agreement in place, there is no easy way to navigate the problems.
And I would imagine that situation would become very emotional and very personal.
Absolutely. You find that settling these agreements, it's not just about figuring out what legally should happen, but figuring out what each side feels they're entitled to. And there's never an equal share of the work, and there's never an equal share of the resources. And so it's always a very tedious thing to settle and very costly.
What's one strategy that a local business should be aware of before entering into a business partnership or some kind of business contract?
Well, first of all, I think anyone that's in business should always retain some attorney at some point in very early on. And if you do that, then if there's a contract that's not the ordinary course of business, something that you don't normally handle or that you're unfamiliar with, you have a resource immediately to go to that you trust. That's vital because for an hour or even less, an attorney can look over a very complex contract and tell you what areas of that contract look like they could be a problem for you, discuss what those problems could be, and then you can make decisions before you sign something and before you commit yourself to something that might be harmful to you.
And will probably save you a lot of grief, aggravation, and money in the end.
Oh, absolutely.
So what led you to help local businesses with resolving business disputes and partnerships and situations like this?
Well, I myself have been in several partnerships, and I made a lot of mistakes where we didn't cover a lot of the problems that might occur and how to dissolve and the general skeleton of how the partnership was going to work and everybody's roles and responsibilities. And I found that helping other people avoid the pitfalls of just starting a business because the 2 are friends or the 2 are knowledgeable or the 2 people have done quite well for themselves and want to work together, that they haven't thought about all the different roles they're going to have to play and how that's going to burden the 2 different people in such a way that it's going to cause problems. And so by helping them navigate all the areas they hadn't really considered when they were starting their business, you find that they talk it out before they start, they work things out in advance, and now they're in a position where they clearly go into a business with an absolute plan, not just a business plan, but a plan for how they're going to run the business individually as partners. And now the misunderstandings go away, the problems that they might have down the road are no longer there. And it almost feels like we really didn't need the attorney because we've never had any problems.
But in the end, it makes it simple.
Absolutely.
And everybody knows what they're responsible for. Everybody knows who's doing what, who's responsible for what, which is important. So besides, obviously hiring an attorney to look over a contract before you sign it, what's one piece of advice that someone just starting out in a partnership that you would give them?
Well, I would tell them if they're not going to hire an attorney to make sure they do their homework on how to start a partnership correctly. I would also tell them that they really need to sit down and come up with a plan of what everyone's role will be and what they're going to put in place if those roles can't be met. And if they need to both, or more partners, however many they have, all need to agree to this. Because if they find themselves in a position where they haven't worked something out in advance, those ambiguities will get them later. But if they can come down and with a plan that says, I will do these duties, these days, these hours, and will accomplish these things every month, and then the other person will do these other activities each day, each week, each month, and here's the responsibilities, and here's the partnership split on expenses and profits, and they have a full package for when you want to dissolve the partnership, or should you get divorced, how that would be handled, how that would impact the partnership. They can really get all the ins and outs of those things ironed out. They'll be in a position to go into the partnership and then focus on the business, because everybody knows what everyone is supposed to do. And now, if there's a problem, we also know how to handle that problem.
And also, obviously, what the compensation would be between the partnerships, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Compensation is usually the only thing that people talk about before they start. But it's definitely something that should be in the agreement.
Definitely. So if I was a business owner that ended up getting myself into some kind of business dispute, partnership dispute, lease dispute, something like that, how could we find out more about you and more information on how your law firm can help us?
Well, I mean, the best way, I love to talk to people face-to-face or over the phone. I feel it's easier than the email or even the text messages because it just, you don't get to really ask everything. And with us, we give you a free consultation. We have a 1-800 number you're able to call from anywhere in the country and ask the questions. That number is 866-439-1295. And I'm here Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock till usually 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So if a client ever needs to meet me after business hours and discuss an issue they're having for a dispute or even the formation of a company, we're able to definitely help them out at either our offices in L.A. or we can have them meet in our offices in Las Vegas.
And is there a website or an email address to contact you?
Yes. Our website is www.wl-llp.com. And you can also just email me at jsalas, that's S-A-L-A-S, at wl-llp.com.
Awesome. All right, guys, now you've heard from Juan Salas, a California attorney on business disputes. Thank you for listening, and until next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.